My name's Rob Snow, and this is Part of the Board Games, and today we're taking a look at Architects of the West Kingdom, a worker placement game from Garphill Games and Renegade Games, designed by Shem, Phillips, and S.J. MacDonald. So today what we're going to do, we're not going to go over a full how to play, but we're going to cover a lot of things that you can do. We're going to talk about how this worker placement game relates to some of the other worker placement games out there in the wild, and hopefully from this video you can decide if this is a type of game for you. So with a worker placement game, and this is with any worker placement game, the first thing that you're going to do is you will have workers on your board. And so I'm playing as the blue player in what I've set up as a 3-player game. And so on my little player board, which is kind of out of screen, it's this blue thing right here, I'm going to have a handful of blue workers. I actually have 20 of them, plus some of them on the board. And the goal of this game is to get victory points, which are noted by these golden flag symbols. Here are some on this card here. Anytime you see those golden flags, that is an indication that there are victory points to be gained there. And the primary way that we're going to do that in this game is by helping to build the cathedral in this section, taking steps up the cathedral, and then also by building buildings that we have in our hands from this green deck right here. It's full of buildings that give us victory points and other helpful bonuses throughout the game. So that's going to be how we determine who the winner is at the end of the game. Whoever has the most victory points. And again, you're primarily going to get those by building things. To build those things, you're going to need to get resources, and you get those by placing workers at different spots around the map. For instance, if I take my worker on this turn and place him here at the quarry, I would get 1 stone. So I'd grab 1 stone from the pile, it comes to my player board, and now I have that stone. The interesting thing about this game, as opposed to many other worker games, is that there are not rounds of play where we sweep all the workers off the board. We will just continue putting workers out there. If I put another worker at the forest, where I had a worker previously, I will now get 2 wood because I have 2 workers at the forest. So I add 2 wood from the supply, and I add that to my board. Other places where you can go to collect things are the silversmith, where you get coins. You can send somebody to the brickyard, or the mines, where you can collect either multiple bricks or 1 gold, which is a valuable resource, for every 2 workers that you have placed there. So because red only places first worker there, all he can do is take bricks. But on his next turn, if he places another worker there, he may take 1 gold since he has 2 workers there. Eventually, as people add more and more workers to different locations and gain more resources, they will start to run out of workers. But before we cover that, let's cover a couple of the other places on the board. You can always go to the King's Storehouse, where you can make trades, and you can trade any combination of stone and wood that equals 3 for 1 marble, which is the only resource that you cannot get from going to a specific location. You have to trade other resources for it. You can also go to the black market. In the black market, you'll collect greater resources, and you'll have to pay gold, or silver, excuse me, you'll have to pay silver coins to go to the black market and gain its benefits. When you go to the black market, you also lose virtue. And so when you lose virtue, you move up and down on this track. If you are above 10 virtue, you cannot go to the black market anymore because you are too virtuous. If you have less than 4 virtue, you can no longer build on the cathedral. You can still build buildings from your hand, but you can no longer build buildings on the cathedral because you are not virtuous enough to do so. So the virtue track is an important part of the game that kind of, and you will receive or lose victory points at the end, depending on how high on the virtue track you are. Other places that you can go is you can send somebody to the tax stand, but you'll lose 2 virtue, and you'll take all of the tax money out of the tax stand. So the green player would get 4 silver in this example. There are multiple buildings in the game, and some of them are very simple. I'm going to go to our other screen to show some of these off. To build this church building, let's get it right in the center here. So to build this church building, I would need 3 brick and 3 stone, and I could turn those in, and then the lightning bolt symbol down here, the lightning bolt symbol down here lets me know that this happens immediately. So when I build this church, I will immediately get 1 virtue, and I'll immediately be able to discard 1 debt card if I have any. At the end of the game, this card will be worth 5 victory points for me. So to build those buildings, or to build parts of the cathedral, you'll place a worker here in the building section. Now these workers lay down flat, and you do not ever get a chance to move them or get them back into your supply. So when you build, you're essentially losing that worker for the rest of the game. But you're also getting victory points. Now these building cards can get much more complicated than the one that I just showed you. For instance, this one here requires 2 brick, 4 stone, and 1 marble. And at the end of the game, if I have the most stone, I will also gain 2 victory points, and I'll gain 7 victory points just for completing it at the end of the game. There are some cards that are actually as much victory points as they give you. They do negative things to you during the actual course of the game. For instance, on the dungeon, I'll immediately lose 1 virtue when I build the dungeon, and at the end of the game, I'll also lose 2 more virtue. However, I do gain 14 victory points for creating the dungeon. So, the game is all about balancing those buildings and building the ones that you can build and that give you the most victory points, while also making sure that they don't hurt you too much in the process. Another thing that you can do and that you'll need to do is recruit artisans. Is recruit acolytes. One of them is called the artisan. So going to this space here and spending 4 silver lets you recruit an acolyte. And for each worker that I have there, I can move 1 column over, recruiting another acolyte. However, if I really needed somebody from the 4th spot and I didn't have enough workers there, I could pay my way by placing silver from my supply onto the acolytes before them to take the acolyte that I really want, like this. I believe he's the illusionist. Sometimes, for some of these, apprentice. They're not acolytes. They're apprentices. Before these apprentices, some of them, there's only 1 in the game, like the illusionist, and others, like this woodcutter, there are multiples in the game. And they will give you bonuses. For instance, the woodcutter, every time that I go to the forest, I will get 1 extra wood. Other ones, like this merchant, every time that I go to the king's storehouse, I can trade 3 silver for 1 marble. So they let you do extra things. For the swindler, when I go, he will give me 1 negative virtue when I take him, but whenever I go to the black market, I'll gain 1 extra wood. Alright. You can also draw new building cards from the workshop area. If I feel like somebody is getting too many workers in one space, for instance, up here green has 3 workers at the mines, I can go to the town center, pay 1 silver coin to the tax stand, and then I can round up all of her workers in that area, of any one color in that area. And so I would take green, and they would come over onto my board. I now have captured these workers. To get rid of these workers, I can put another worker over here at the guardhouse. And while at the guardhouse, I can trade in any workers from my character board into the prison. and that would give me 1 silver per each. So I actually get silver for turning in other people's workers. I can also use a worker of my own to go there to take all of my workers back. So if the green person wanted to get her workers back from there, she would go to the guardhouse and take her workers back. This is also where I can go to free workers from somebody else's board. If the red player had captured a large number of my workers and I did not want him to get the silver for them, I could go to the guardhouse and pay 5 silver or take a debt card and lose a virtue to get my workers back from the red player before he can turn them in for money. The last thing that you can do here is you can pay off your debt cards for 6 gold or 6 silver each. Debt cards will give they count against your virtue, and then debt cards count against your victory points. They give you -2 victory points at the end of the game. However, if you pay off a debt, it does give you 1 virtue. So there's some different ways to manipulate debt cards, and some of those are through the different apprentices. They'll give you bonuses when you get rid of debt cards. For instance, this debt collector will give you 2 stone every time that you pay off a debt card. And there are other apprentices that help you in that area. If you have people in the guardhouse when certain activities happen, then you will gain debts or lose virtue. So whenever a third person is placed on the black market area, then the black market will reset. The cards will flip over. These people will all go to jail. And then anybody who has at least 3 people in prison will lose a virtue, and whoever has the most will also gain a debt card. This also will happen when the first building on the 4th row is built and the first building on the 5th row is built. So you do want to be careful about how many people you have in prison, especially at the times where you feel like it's about to change over. To build on the cathedral, you're also going to take a worker, lay them down, and then to build on the first level, you need to trade in 1 gold and discard 1 building card. So you would discard one of these green cards from your hand, and then you would move up the track. So if red would move up the track. On the next level, you'll trade in 4 of any stone or wood, then 1 marble, then 8 of stone or wood, and then 2 marble and 2 gold. As the track goes higher, less and less people are able to participate. For instance, only 1 person is able to build the final level of the castle. So even if I had the things that I needed to, if red has already built that level of the cathedral, I cannot build any further up because there is no space for me. When you build, you'll also get, on the cathedral, you also get one of these scrolls, and they give you some kind of bonus. For instance, this one gives you 2 stone and 1 virtue. So building on the cathedral is always a good thing. I love this game because there are so many different paths to victory. You can build buildings that you have in your hand. You can gain points by manipulating debt cards in the black market. You can hurt other people by rounding up their workers or rounding up your own workers before they can get them. You can also build on the cathedral and go with a very virtuous route and try to have a high virtue, high cathedral build at the end of the game. There's a lot of different options. And I think that if you have played games like Lords of Waterdeep or Agricola or some Champions of Midgard, that you'll enjoy this game because there's lots of player interaction. And also, if somebody goes to the quarry, it doesn't mean that I can't also go to the quarry to get my resources. So in some ways, you're more free to build how you want to build, but in other ways, you have to be watchful of what other people are doing, and you don't want to have so many workers at one location that you become a target for somebody to round you up so that they can get a lot of silver. I love the artwork in this game. It's a beautiful map. It's not a huge board. And I love something about, this is something that Garphill Games has done with all of their games, is they really pack this into a small box. There's a lot in here, lots of components, tons of resources. You've got great cards, and the art on the cards is just excellent. Lots of just somber looking people and joyful looking people. Just lots of great cards. Really great character art in the game, which is just it's just super nice that it very much feels like an old medieval town with lots of different just interesting characters in it. And there are some variant plays. There's both a normal side to your character board so that everybody has a very similar start, where everybody starts at the same virtue, coins, and resources. But then there is the black side where everybody starts with something different. And so for this character, she would start with, I'm going to try to get her really close. Oh, I got it. Get her really close. I don't know why my camera is acting like this, but so for her, she would start with 4 people in prison, 5 coins, 5 virtue, and an extra building card. So there's kind of a variant side or an expert side, if you will, to the player cards. I really enjoy this game. I think that it's a great worker placement game. I don't know if it's a very good first worker placement game. If you haven't played something like Lords of Waterdeep, then I would start there. But this is a great next step game, and it plays in about 90 minutes to 2 hours. Again, it depends on how many people are new to the game and how casual or focused people are. But it is a lot of fun. There's some player interaction, and I would highly recommend this game. I think it's very good. I don't know if it's my favorite worker placement game, but it's definitely one that I would have to think about if I was making that type of list. So I want to thank you all for checking out Pardon the Board Games. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Make sure to check out our Instagram at Pardon the Board Games. We'd love to have more followers over there. We're posting all the time. We post more pictures and stuff there than we do here on the YouTube channel. Hope you guys are having a great day and enjoy your week. Thanks for watching.